Well, I tell you, it started back when my daughter Cassandra was 15, 16. She was diagnosed bipolar and all that entails, and that ended up turning into addiction. So from the age of 16 to 26, she was bipolar and an addict. And in and out of, she was in and out of court since she was probably 16, 17. And once she got in that court system, it's a never-ending cycle. And at age 26, she had a massive frontal lobe stroke, which took out her right frontal lobe, where the doctors told me it was the worst stroke that he'd ever seen in somebody that age. He didn't even know if she was going to recover at all. But so she had the stroke at 26, which was coming up on 7 years ago now. And in the middle of that stroke, a clot went to her leg and they cut her right leg off. So she woke up 6 months later, or 3 months later, in the hospital with half a brain, no leg, bipolar, along with a new baby girl. The doctors told me that she has no sense of consequence and no impulse control left with that stroke. And that, along with the bipolar, it's just been a nightmare the last 6 years, 7 years, coming up on 7 years in February. So ever since then, I've been trying to get my daughter help through the Department of Human Services. I started that right while she was still in the hospital, and trying to get her the help she needed, but kept falling through the safety net, as Commissioner Claire Wilson would call it. And so over the last 7 years, she has been in and out of prison, jails, treatment centers. She's only probably been free. I think she's only been out of jail, prison, or treatment center probably 6 months in the last 7 years. And she can just never get the help that she needs. I had her committed, I think it was in January of 2015, I had her committed to get treatment, where she was taken to the care unit in Fergus Falls, which was a drug and alcohol treatment center. While she was there, she wasn't probably there a month, or not even a month, probably a couple weeks. And her and another girl got in a fight over what they were watching on TV. They threw the remote control back and forth and had a little argument. The sheriff was called, and they hauled both of them out of this treatment center and charged them with assault, put them in the county jail. And that started a whole, it's just been a never-ending cycle since that time. She was in jail before the stroke and before this, but she could keep it together. But after this stroke, with the bipolar, and she is just completely, for lack of a better term, willy-nilly. The doctor told me that she lives in the here and now. She don't think about the future. She don't think about the past. She just thinks about what's happening right now. And so that causes a lot of problems. And she stayed out of jail for probably 3 months, or even that, 2 months. And got in another fight with her sister and hauled off to Clay County. So this has been going on for numerous years. 2015, and after the fight with her sister, I asked for I think it's a Rule 20 for mental evaluation for my daughter. I wanted her to have a Rule 20 so they could figure out what was wrong with her and what help she needed. Well, her public defender told her that not to do it and to take a plea deal because all I was trying to do was to steal her daughter from her. Her daughter she had it when she had the stroke, and farthest thing from the truth. So she took a plea deal to go back to prison for a couple of years. And while she's in prison, she had that amputation while she was in prison. She got her leg because she had it all measured up and was waiting to get her leg. It had been probably 2 years since she had her leg amputated. So when she got her leg fitted, well, then they sent her to prison. She got her leg when she was in prison. And she called me up in good mood, happy. She says, "Dad, I'm walking." I'm like, right on. Lifted her spirits. She was doing good. And about 2 weeks later or so, the inmate stole the remote control to her leg and flushed it down the toilet, leaving her leg inoperable. So the prison sent her leg back to Essentia Health to be repaired. And Essentia Health in Fargo repossessed her leg for non-payment because when you're incarcerated, Social Security disability will not cover. My daughter's disabled. She's on Social Security, but they would not cover the replacement of her leg. So she has been without her leg now since probably late 2015, I believe. And so that's been another fight that's been going on. But since she's been in and out of prison, and this story goes on and on and on, and it is so in-depth that I don't even know where to start. It's just been a revolving door of in and out of prison, probation, parole violations, treatment centers, and finally, I didn't know where else to turn. So I believe it was the spring of 2018, April 1st, I didn't know what else to do. So I asked God, what do you want me to do? And all I heard was walk. So April 1st of 2018, I believe it was an Easter Sunday, I took off. I did some planning, and I took off walking from Moorhead. From Moorhead Courthouse, I took off walking, carrying this sign, "Stop Criminalizing Mental Illness." I walked from Moorhead all the way to St. Paul. Bring awareness to the criminalization of mental illness in our system. Because right now we are just warehousing the mentally ill. Once we close down the state hospitals, there's no help for them. Our jails and prisons have now become warehouses for the mentally ill. While I was walking, I didn't get the back of the sign, if you can see that, but I got stopped by law enforcement, sheriffs, deputies, while I was on my walk, and they signed the back of my sign with telling me, keep going. We need what you're doing. We need you to do what you're doing, because law enforcement has their hands tied and they don't know what to do. They don't have the resources or the skill sets to take care of the mentally ill in their jails and prisons. I didn't get one response from no representative, no senator, not the governor, nobody. So I wrote a detailed letter of my daughter's situation, and I went down there the end of April in 2018, and I hand-delivered, hand-signed 202 letters, the story of my daughter. That was April 28th. I hand-signed and hand-delivered 202 of these to every office I could get into, thinking, well, at least now they can read what the deal is, and maybe I'll get a phone call. Zero. Zip. And that just blew my mind. I'm like, are you kidding me? My daughter continued to suffer in jail and prison. And when she's in jail and prison, she can't jail and prison either. So she spends, I would say, about 90% of her time in solitary confinement. So the next legislative session was coming up, and I figured, what can I do to get these people's attention down there? So I drove up and down the state of Minnesota to every courthouse I could find, every place I could get to. And I stopped at every sheriff's office, every police chief, and asked them to sign a petition to stop criminalizing mental illness. I went down to St. Paul that next session. I think this was last year, 2019, late 2018, 19. I took a petition down there signed by close to 100 sheriffs, deputies, police chiefs, county attorneys, county prosecutors, along with probably close to 500 public. And I took this petition down there thinking, boy, this here is going to get their attention. So once again, I walked around to 202 offices, hand delivering a petition and a letter, hoping that at least I would get some attention. I got the attention of one man, and he's a representative from down by Mankato. He says, get in my office, we need to talk. So I went to his office, and he says, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know, dude. You tell me. I don't know what to do. I am just a distraught father watching my daughter slowly being killed in a system that is broken. And he says, oh, what do you want to do? I said, oh, we need to have a law. So we started out, and one of the missing ingredients in my daughter's court stuff was a neuropsychological exam, which 2 years ago I paid for a neuropsychological examination for her. And it came back that the last place this girl needs to be is in prison. Didn't do a bit of good, but that's what the report said. So Jeremy Munson, along with myself, drafted a law called Cassie's Law that anybody in the criminal justice system, if they've had a traumatic brain injury, before they can be railroaded through the court system, need a neuropsychological exam before the judge can pass sentence, so that the judge can take this into consideration. That was 2 years ago, and it finally passed the House of Representatives last May. So Cassie's Law passed the House of Representatives last May. I still had to get it through the Senate. But last week I got a call and said that now that this is a new biennium coming up, I need to get it passed through the House of Representatives again, and then I have to get it through the Senate coming up now. So I'm kind of starting from scratch, but as long as the House passed it last year, I'm pretty sure they'll pass it again this year. I hope. So the entire thing is a complete and utter debacle. I went to a town hall meeting 2 years ago when Governor Walsh was elected. He had a town hall meeting in Fergus Falls. And I got up in this town hall meeting and I told him my daughter's story. And he stopped me at the end of the story. He says, "Holt," he says, "what you need is a governor where the buck stops here." I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "We need to talk." That was over 2 years ago. To this day, I'm still waiting on Governor Walsh to talk because he's the governor where the buck stops here. I never have talked with Governor Walsh about it. He says every time I see him, he says, "Well, have you talked to my team?" I said, "Well, yeah, I have talked to your team, but there's nothing happening." When representatives talk to me and say, "I know, Tim, I know," and nothing happens, there's a huge problem. The Department of Corrections commissioner right now has talked with my daughter. He tells me, "Tim, I'm the first to tell you, your daughter does not belong at prison." Yet, my daughter is in prison. When commissioners say this, there's a huge problem. The mentally ill in the state of Minnesota do not matter, and I am down there fighting tooth and nail to get them the help that they need, because wasting away in a 8x10 cell in solitary confinement is not doing them or society any good. My daughter got out of prison on early release 2 months ago, where she was sent to Tapestry, a dual diagnosis treatment center for bipolar, addiction, and I was hoping brain injury. She was there probably a month, and the last week I got a call that she got kicked out of there because of her behaviors, which, in my thinking, the exact behaviors that they're there to help them with. Right now, my daughter is sitting in the Ramsey County Jail in St. Paul, and she will be going back to prison, all because of mental illness and a brain injury. And I have no idea where to turn anymore. I just keep fighting. I just keep fighting. This is my daughter Cassandra and her two daughters, in a wheelchair, amputee, bipolar, brain injury. Does that look like the person we need to have in our jails and prisons? I don't think so. I could go on and on and on. I've got that's basically the hype or the low points of what's been happening. I try to keep fighting. I'm not going to quit. I'm headed back down to St. Paul in January to get Cassie's Law passed again, and then hopefully get it through the Senate this session. So, with the criminal justice system and mental illness do not belong in the same sentence. I talked with a jail sergeant from, he was up in, oh, where was it? Brainerd, I believe. Crow Wing County Jail. My daughter was in there because they were overcrowded in Clay County, so they took her to Crow Wing County, and I talked to a jail sergeant up there, and he told me, he says, the treatment of the mentally ill in our justice system in and of itself is criminal. Now, for that to come from a jailer, and you can talk to any jailer you want to in any county, they will admit there's a problem. And there just needs to be a systematic overhaul of the entire deal, because people are suffering, families are suffering, individuals are suffering, and I don't know where to start or what to do, but all I can do is just keep plugging away and do what I know to do. And the only thing I can do is go back down to St. Paul, talk to representatives. I don't know what else to do except try to get the story out, try to get people to come together, come up with a solution. And other than that, I really don't know what to do. So we need people to stand up and take action. I'm just one guy down there, and trying to change a broken system, which they readily admit is a broken system. Like I said, when the governor, the attorney general, and every representative and senator that I talk to says the system is broken and nothing happens, that is a huge problem. We need to flood the Capitol with stories, with individuals. We need to put faces on this problem, because I can guarantee you, if it was a governor's daughter, a representative's daughter, senator's daughter, we wouldn't have this problem. But we just need to keep plugging away down at St. Paul, getting the attention of the representatives and the senators, and keep coming up with different ideas to help the people suffering in our jails and prisons.
Mental illness in the judicial system is an area that's been studied somewhat over time, but with no good consequences yet. Maybe is the way to say it, that they've tried several things, and different places do different things, but well over half of the population of people that are incarcerated, whether it's at that local, state, or federal level, have mental illness. And they have a constitutional guarantee that they have a right to basic mental health care that they often don't receive. It's at the federal level, I think it's less than a third of the inmates receive mental health. At the state, it's less than a fourth. And at the local level, it's about 17.5% of people needing mental health services actually receive them. So that's a huge problem. People with mental health disorders are more likely to have longer sentences by about 5 months than those without mental illness that are incarcerated. They're often put into solitary confinement, which can worsen their mental health symptoms, especially psychotic symptoms. And there's just a lack of staffing and programs and resources and access to the resources they need to address the mental health issues. So I know one of the things that people have talked about that's really important is keeping people with mental illness out of the judicial system. And there's different ways to do that. And one is through diversionary programs where you do mental health screenings, kind of pre-law involvement, if you will. Also teaching, crisis intervention and de-escalation techniques and those types of things to keep people out of the system and engage them in community programs and resources at the community level, so you can keep them out of the judicial system and out of prison, because that makes the symptoms worse, the mental health symptoms worsen. When people are incarcerated, they don't get treated, and just is better all around if it's possible to divert people with mental illness from the judicial system. Some other problems that we have with the prison system is they are overcrowded and they lack resources. And about 48% of the mentally ill people that are incarcerated in prison are so for drug-related offenses. For some of them, it's their second or third offense. Some people that end up in prison for a long time might have had as many as 3 to 10 offenses that are drug-related. And mental illness and drug addiction are co-occurring disorders, and those people often end up in the prison system, and the resources aren't there to deal with it. So the most common mental illness disorders that people have in the prison system are similar to those with the co-occurring disorders. Anxiety's a big one, post-traumatic stress disorder, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, major depression, and also psychotic schizophrenia disorders. So one is requesting those services that are constitutionally guaranteed. Like you have a right to basic mental health services if you're in the judicial system. So the institutions need to provide screening at the beginning so that they can identify people that have mental health needs. They need to provide information on mental health and treatment that's available, and they need to provide adequate access to mental health services. And so if you're an individual, you can advocate for yourself. If you're a family member or friend, you can help advocate for your loved one. And also, individuals have the right to refuse treatment, and they also have the right to be free from harmful procedures such as solitary confinement. And then we need to work through advocacy on eliminating discriminatory practices and punishments. And so if you're advocating for yourself or for others, ask for that mental health screening, request diversionary programs if they exist in your area, ask for services and referrals to services. If they don't have services immediately available, get referred to services that might be available outside the institution, and then work with your attorney on making sure that those programs and services that are legally required to be provided to you are done, that is done. And there's 2 associations, the National Association of Mental Illness, known as NAMI, and also Mental Health America, that you can contact for further information on mental illness in the judicial system.